Mary Bell was born in 1957. She grew up in Newcastle, England. From the beginning, her childhood was deeply troubled. She was raised in an unstable home, and according to accounts from people who knew her, Mary showed disturbing behavior while she was still very young. But nobody imagined what would happen next, because by the time Mary was just 10 years old, children around her were already dying. In 1968, Mary was only 10 years old. That year, she became fascinated with violence and death. She would talk about killing, she would make disturbing threats, and sometimes she seemed almost fascinated by the idea of someone dying. But there was another girl Torlenzer constantly around her. Her name was Norma Bell. Norma was 11. And together the two girls would begin doing things that seemed more like the behavior of adults than children. Then on May 25th, 1968, 4-year-old Martin Brown disappeared. Martin was playing near his home in Scotswood, and nobody knew where he had gone. Later that day, his body was discovered inside an abandoned building. He had been strangled. The police began investigating, but there was almost nothing pointing toward a killer. Then something strange happened. Mary Bell and Norma Bell began talking about Martin's death. They told people they knew something about what happened, but nobody took the girls seriously. They were only children, and investigators had no reason to believe that 2 young girls could be responsible for a murder. Then another child disappeared, 3-year-old Brian Howe, and this time the circumstances were even more disturbing. On July 31st, 1968, Brian Howe was found dead. His body had been left in an empty lot. He had been strangled, and investigators discovered injuries that suggested the killer had returned to the body after the murder. The community was terrified. 2 young children had been killed in just a few months. Parents became afraid to let their children play outside, and police began looking closely at everyone in the neighborhood, including the children. Then police found something unusual. Mary Bell had written something disturbing. She had left a message connected to one of the murders, and there were reports that Mary and Norma had even entered the nursery school attended by one of the victims. The police finally began questioning them. At first, the girls denied everything, but eventually the story began to fall apart. Mary admitted being involved in the killings, and investigators began to realize something horrifying. The killer they had been searching for was a child. Mary was only 11 years old when she was arrested. She was questioned about the murders, and what the investigators heard shocked them. Mary described the killings without showing the kind of emotion they expected from a child. But there was another question. Was Mary acting alone, or was Norma involved too? The 2 girls blamed each other. Each claimed the other had been responsible, and investigators were left trying to separate the truth from the stories the children were telling. Eventually, Mary Bell was convicted of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. She was not found guilty of murder. Norman was acquitted. Mary was sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure. She was only 11 years old, but she'd already become one of Britain's most notorious child killers. And the case raised a disturbing question. What could make a child become capable of killing another child? Mary's childhood was examined in detail. There were reports of neglect, instability, and serious problems within her home life. There were also claims that she had displayed disturbing behavior before the murders. But none of these things provided a simple explanation, because thousands of children grow up in difficult circumstances and never become violent killers. So investigators, psychologists, and the public were left with a mystery. Was Mary born different, or was she shaped by her environment? Mary was eventually released from prison in 1980. She was 23 years old, but her release came with strict conditions. And because of the extraordinary nature of her case, her identity was protected. She was given anonymity. She eventually changed her name. She built a private life, and for decades she largely stayed away from the public eye. But the murders never disappeared. The case became one of the most disturbing examples of childhood violence in British history. Mary Bell had killed when she was only 10. She was convicted when she was 11, and she became one of the youngest people in modern Britain to be convicted for a killing. But the story doesn't end with her conviction, because years later another controversy emerged. The public learned that Mary had received financial compensation connected to the publication of her story, and that decision caused the outrage. Many people believed someone responsible for such horrific crimes should never profit from them. But there was another side to the story. Mary had been a child when the crimes happened. The law recognized that, and her identity was protected partly because she had been so young. Her case became part of a much larger debate. How should society treat children who commit extreme crimes? Should they be punished like adults? Or should their age and childhood circumstances be considered? Mary Bell became a symbol of that debate.